So, if you've been through burnout, or if you're currently going through burnout, you know there is sort of a before and an after. And I haven't lost anybody close to me other than a grandparent, but I've heard it's the same when somebody dies. There's the before and there's the after. And it really is like you are a new version of you after burnout. The problem is you don't know who you are. So, you know, you've been through hell. You know, you have completely fallen apart. You've burned to ashes. You are no longer the version of you who bopped into work excited in your new white coat on that first day of that job, right? That version of you has gone bye bye a long time ago. And so, as you start to sort of rise from the ashes, and you will, if you're not there yet, I promise you will get to that point. But as you start to sort of come alive again, it's going to be scary at first. You're sort of like, who am I? What do I want? You doubt yourself a lot because you got yourself into this whole burnout mess, or at least that's the story. You got into burnout and you're like, how do I even know what I want? At least that's how I was. And I have never been divorced, but I've heard it sort of the same way when you start dating again. At first, you're like, I will never, ever date anybody again. I'm done with, men or women or whatever it is. And then, months go by and you slowly start to think, I mean, what if, maybe, well, I sort of am open to this. And it's the same way with burnout. You sort of find yourself thinking, I mean, maybe I could feel joy again. Maybe I don't want to leave medicine forever. Maybe I could find a job where I'm happy again. And I mean, you may still be in the same job when this happens. And if this is the case, you may find yourself looking at other jobs just as if you're looking at a dating profile and kind of swiping around to see what's there. But you also may find yourself thinking, I mean, what if they would let me work part time? What if they would let me work at this one office that is a lot closer to my house? So you open yourself up to possibility. Now, I'm going to give you some ideas and some tools to help you when this phase starts. So, if you can't even imagine being here and being open to possibility, then you're in still part one of burnout healing. So, don't feel bad about it. You will get here eventually, but you're also probably not here yet. And if you've gone through any kind of major change, even if it's not burnout, if you've had a baby, if you've moved to a new location, then this podcast episode can help you because you too are going to go through that before and that after phase. Who am I now? Who do I want to be? What makes me happy? And you too will doubt everything and you're going to need some tools to get you through it. Okay, so one thing I want you to realize is that you're not going to figure this out with a spreadsheet. And I have tried. I've tried notebooks. I have notebook after notebook of me writing down, I could do this. I could ask for this much money. I could switch to this specialty. I could move the family to Africa, which I really tried to do. And my husband was not on board. Thank goodness, because the Ebola outbreak started around that time. And I'm grateful for unanswered prayers in that situation. But here's what you need to do. Number one, be open to possibility. So you do not have to have it all figured out. The first thing I want you to do is just to sort of open yourself up to, I don't know how this is all going to work out, but I'm open to things being different than they were. And just that simple acceptance sort of sends out a message to the universe that you are ready. Now, that doesn't mean that somebody's going to hand deliver a new job to you on a silver platter. But what it does mean is that you are going to start having little downloads, little ideas. You're going to have sparks of curiosity. You're going to feel tugged or pulled towards certain things. You're going to meet people. It is crazy. And I want you to journal during this time because you'll look back and you won't even believe it unless you see it in your own handwriting. I like to use the metaphor of in the last stage, the first stage of burnout, you were drowning. It's like you're in the middle of the ocean, treading water, just praying you won't go under. It takes all your strength just to keep your head up and to, suck in some breath every now and then. This is the stage where you start seeing a tiny little blip of land off in the distance, and it gives you enough hope to keep going. And as you get closer and closer to that land, you start allowing yourself to believe that a new life is possible. You're not only going to survive at this point, you start thinking, okay, what do I want my new life to look like? And this is the most fun phase to me, probably because I love visualizing, I love imagining stuff. Okay, so the second step is creativity. So, this is the part of your burnout journey where I want you to find a way to be creative because creativity activates the right part of your brain. That's the creative, non-spreadsheet part. The left side is the very regimented, let me plan this whole thing out. And for a lot of PAs, I mean, we're planners. We want a differential diagnosis. We want an algorithm that we can go down and figure out which treatments to prescribe first and what order to do it in and use evidence-based medicine. This is the total opposite of that. This is all feeling and woo-woo. So, you're going to notice how things feel in your body during this stage. You're going to be like a body detective. When do you feel good and when do you not feel good? When you feel good, you need to notice it. How do you specifically feel in your body? It's usually the words that I hear clients use are I feel light, I feel free, I feel curious, I feel open, excited, um, eager. Curious is a big one, though. So, curiosity and creativity sort of go together. So, what could you be curious about? I mean, it might be something completely unrelated to medicine. For a lot of people, it's some type of art or creativity. Cooking is a big one. And the reason this is going to help you with your burnout is because it's going to flip you over from the left part of your brain to the right part of your brain, which is going to allow you to think in a whole new way. You're going to come up with ideas and options that you were not able to come up with when you were stuck in the left side of your brain. So, even though cooking may have nothing to do with your medical career, allow yourself to pursue these things. Allow yourself to be curious and creative. And if you have no idea nothing interests you, then either you may still be in that first part of burnout or you need to just go on an exploration. Julia Cameron has a book called The Artist Way, and it's a great book, even if you're not an artist. And she talks about taking yourself on a weekly date to somewhere that you're interested in. Now, you all have dated at some point in your lives, and you know that you try to figure out what the other person would be into. And you try different things, and everything feels new and exciting, and you're willing to do things you don't normally do, like roller skating or ice skiing or whatever. Is it called ice? No, snow skiing. Ice skiing would be bad. That's what we do in North Carolina because there's not much snow. But anyway, you find yourself being open to things you wouldn't normally be open to. When we were dating, my husband took me to, this sounds so redneck, but he took me to a car racing. What was it called? It was like this mud racing. And Georgia clay is red. If you've never seen Georgia clay, it's this bright orange, burnt sienna, reddish color. And I didn't know where we were going. So I wore a brand new pair of white denim shorts and a like yellow top. And by the end of that date, I was covered. My shorts were orange. But I was open to possibility. I was curious. So activate those words in your life. Like think, okay, what am I curious about? And really become a detective. It's not just going to pop into your head while you're listening to this episode, most likely. And it's a feeling in your body. You will feel pulled towards stuff or pulled towards people that you've never met or people that you've never really thought of as being your friends. For me, it's like when I'm in this state of mind and I open emails that advertise things in our community, or when I see like a course being offered, it's like it's writing usually. I see something and I feel this excitement in my body. Now, then my brain will kick in and say, like, oh, guy, you don't need to add another thing to your plate. Or why would you do that? Why would you go to yoga nidra? Why would you go to, my husband and I went to a calligraphy class not too long ago. And so my brain is like, that's stupid. Like, nobody handwrites letters anymore. Like, why would you waste time and money doing that? So just know that that's going to pop up and you just say, brain, it's okay. You just go back to sleep. I'm going to pursue this. And yeah, it's not going to be my next career. I'm not going to address wedding invitations, but this is going to help me figure out who I am. So the whole point of this chapter of your burnout journey is to figure out who this new version of you is. You're going to date yourself. You are going to see what sparkles you, what sparks your interest. You're going to see what lights you up. When I was in this phase, writing, I really, really, really wanted to write, but I was so self-conscious and I'm like, who am I to think I'm a writer? I get self-conscious about grammar, about Southern, dialect and colloquialisms that I use that other people don't use. And I gave myself permission to write by having a private blog. So I started a blog online because I didn't want anybody to even like find a paper journal. And I set the settings to private so nobody could chance upon it. And if they did, they had to have a password. And I wrote every day. And it didn't make sense some days, but I just gave myself permission to write. The other thing I did was I took a cooking class from a friend who is Indian, and she invited us over and she let us taste all these exotic spices. Um, I also took yoga teacher training, which I did not end up becoming. Well, I did become a yoga teacher, but that only lasted about a year. And then I moved on. Like, I don't do that for my career now, but I also didn't stop myself because I knew that yoga teaching pays like $20 an hour, y'all. So that was not a way to support a family. But I gave myself permission to try that. Travel is another thing that allows you to look at your interest and figure out who you are because when you step out of your comfort zone, it awakens a new part of you. So if you have the privilege, if you have the opportunity to travel, highly recommend that. When my husband and I were in Montana, we were poor because I worked at a bakery for minimum wage, which was $7 and something at that time. And he was a grad student, so he had a stipend, and it was not very much. I want to say we had like $500 a month that we could spend. And so we would go on these road trips and we would stay like one night at a bed and breakfast. And most bed and breakfast at that time were under $100 a night, and that included your breakfast. And I would pack our sandwiches to go. So we didn't have to worry about supper. I mean, we might stop somewhere like for a beer on the road, but well, that makes it sound bad, like we're drinking and driving. But you know what I mean? Like we would eat our sandwiches, we would stop, we would arrive at our bed and breakfast, explore the town, eat the free breakfast the next day, and then mosey on back to Bozeman and stop at cool antique stores and just places like that. And that really helped me during that time figure out who I was because I had ended my internal medicine job when I moved out to Montana and I had not yet found a new job. So this was an example of a before and after that I didn't even, it wasn't burnout related. It was just I couldn't find another job. Some of you may be having this before and after experience with having kids. Like maybe you stayed home on maternity leave with your kid and then you're heading back to work and you're like, I feel completely different. Not only are you sleep deprived, but you're a different person. You're a mom now or a dad. So give yourself permission to explore things, and these don't have to be your final career. I interviewed Amanda Padota. She's a PA in Vegas, and she was telling me how she had her fourth little, I think she has four boys. But anyway, she stayed home for a little while and then realized she loved baking biscuits. She loved trying different recipes. She liked trying different versions of the biscuits. And she started a cottage a cottage biscuit business. Now, how cool is that? Now, she probably knew that she's not going to sell them to Whole Foods or Costco or wherever and become like a biscuit mogul. But it allowed her during that time to figure out who she was again and to just sort of explore these new parts of herself. So, if you're in this phase, I want you to really be a detective and notice when things light you up and see if you can do more of those. And if nothing at all lights you up, then you have to pretend you're dating yourself and take yourself to these different places. Take yourself to Michael's, the art store, to Hobby Lobby. Doesn't have to be a craft. I mean, you could take yourself, like one of my clients loves mountain biking, or he did when he was young. So he loved to mountain bike. And so I encouraged him to try that again. And he works in orthopedics. So he's like, wow, I wouldn't want to break a bone or hurt a joint. But by exploring that side of him that he'd forgotten about, it reminded him what he was looking for in life. He was looking for more fun. He was looking for that freedom that he felt when he was on his bicycle. For me, the writing helped me feel, I guess, connected to my inner self. Like I was able to let words flow onto the computer screen that I didn't feel like I had the vocal ability to let flow, if that makes any sense. So these interests that you have, they're not just silly willy, crazy dreams. They're going to help you figure out who you are. They're going to help you figure out how you want to feel in this new life. Like if it's freedom and fun that you need more of, you may take a look at your career and say, how much of that is in my current job, my current career? Maybe zero. So, can you get that outside of work? Is there a way that on the weekends you can get that feel of freedom and fun? Or are you going to have to look for a different job? So these are all questions that a life coach can ask you. Therapists can ask you these. I don't find that they give you quite as many tools as life coaches. So if you would like to work with me, let me know. I am very limited right now in how many clients I'm taking because of this book that I'm writing. But don't worry, the book will not be super expensive and it'll have all these tools and more. So reach out if you want, though. I'd love to hear from y'all and share this episode if you know somebody who would like to listen. See y'all next week.